Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the GGB Supplier Showcase. As always, I'm your host, Jess Marquez, and today I'm so glad to be joined by a friend of the program, none other than Paul Gordon, Senior Vice President of Sales at Rymax. Paul, how are you doing, sir?
We're happy to be part of this again. It's amazing that it's been a full year, and it's great to talk about the industry.
That's right. We were just joking before we came on here. It's like it's our tradition at this point, pre G2E discussion. I always enjoy it. It signals that we are here at the time of the year when everybody's kind of running around and pants on fire and the whole deal. Um, so kind of using that as a springboard. Obviously, anytime that I have you on, it's all things loyalty. Rymax is one of the leaders in casino loyalty programs, and that sector is really interesting to me. I gotta admit, I always enjoy. Well, more broadly, I love our showcase series just because I get to hear from all of our different partners from all over the industry. But the loyalty sector has always been interesting to me just because there's so many different kind of fascinating things at play. As I always say, I'm not a sales type guy. That's not really who I am, but I'm always fascinated by kind of the science behind it and kind of the what goes into making these programs successful and how they work for casinos by driving visitation and revenue and such. And you obviously at Rymax have been there a long time. You are a leader in the space. So I'm curious, since the last time we spoke, kind of what are some of the current trends that you're seeing in the loyalty landscape, if that's what you want to call it, in terms of, I know there's differences by pricing category. So kind of, could you kind of break that down a little bit?
Yeah, so this year, of course, is a little bit different than other years because it's an election year.
Sure.
And so the economy plays a big part in it because it's front and center. You have both parties that are promising a lot of things, and whether any of those things actually come about, who knows? But it creates anxiety in the marketplace. There are real issues in terms of where we've seen inflation and where we've seen the cost of other things. But in the casino industry, it's really fascinating. Of course, I'm always in the casinos, and they're very crowded. The restaurants are crowded. People are playing, and people are going to shows. So discretionary income is still there. But in terms of what motivates people or what they redeem, we're still in a position where people are redeeming more for need than for desire. I've had this conversation before, I think even with you last year, that they want more practical things, but at the same time, they're very savvy in terms of what brands are out there. There used to be a time where, casinos could give away logo and merchandise or sort of knockoffs, and that still is done in some casinos. But the reality is that the consumer wants the real thing, and they want what's latest and greatest and what's hot. So name brands really resonate. In terms of price point, everybody has access to information. And so they can very easily Google and sort of get a sense of, well, what's my value? What is this that they're giving away? What is the price of this thing? And so there's a greater, more educated player that's out there. And so you have to give them good stuff. It has to be relevant in terms of what's really going on. And you need to always continue to mix it up. So price points really vary. I mean, there's some very low end price points. I mean, we do bulk giveaways at casinos where maybe the price point is $25, $30, all the way up to, top tier players that are looking for a Breitling watch or they're looking for, a Dyson. So we try to really, concentrate on the different segments that are there. I think that's key to any business. In the casino industry, it's all about different tiers of players and giving them something that is very, specific to them. And so that's really what we're seeing right now. So I don't know that it's going to change in 2025. The Fed just cut the rate. That's really not going to have an impact probably for another 2 or 3, maybe even 4 months in terms of housing, in terms of credit card debt and things like that. But we're pretty optimistic about sort of where the economy is moving. And I think that you're going to see more luxury brands that are going to be redeemed, which really kind of fell off the map once the pandemic hit. People weren't going anywhere. But you're starting to see luxury brands coming back, and that's everything from fashion goods and watches, electronics, things like that. So that's really what the landscape looks like right now.
So that's interesting to me, and far be it from me to. I'm a gaming reporter. I'm not a a retail consumer reporter or anything like that. Um, But that's interesting. So you're saying that it's kind of we're kind of seeing a shift kind of back to pre-pandemic taste in terms of the the upper echelon products.
I mean, yeah, I mean, let's face it, you couldn't give Toomey luggage away, or Samsonite luggage away 4 years ago. No one was traveling. No one was going anywhere. And then even in 2021, when you saw the impact of sort of what was going on there, travel is through the roof. So categories like that now are huge, and so that becomes a big area there. What's interesting is that like the fitness area, fitness has kind of dropped off a little bit because where people were stuck in their houses and they all wanted bikes or they wanted to have exercise equipment in their house because they were determined to get fit again and do all those things. That's fallen off a little bit. But in fitness, because I think of health and well-being across the board, cooking is always very important to people, and so those items still resonate. So yeah, we're starting to see a shift back where other categories are coming into play, and and it's been real positive. So we're feeling really pretty good about where everything is moving.
What about, a big part of this too is obviously, customer demographics, right? I mean, for many years, I mean, the historically the casino industry has kind of shifted or geared toward the older consumer, the ones with more, as you mentioned, with more discretionary income. Um, as we kind of see, younger players come into the fold, how does that change in terms of their tastes, in terms of redemption and loyalty and stuff like that among the younger crowd? I mean, and by younger, I mean it's a kind of a broad range, you know what I mean? I could say anything from like, 50 and below, you know what I mean? And when you're talking
Yeah.
about casinos, obviously it skews a lot older. So I mean, kind of, how has the demographics changed a little bit?
Well, so great question. First of all, boomers still do have the most discretionary income. And you see, sort of the younger generation, different categories that have less. What was a concern, let's say 4 or 5 years ago, was the aging of the population that was going through there. And what really was the future? And was it sort of a stale sort of experience? The online gaming, the sports betting, has breathed a new life into the casinos in brick and mortar as well, because that younger audience that is very much into betting on the NFL, NCAA, all those things, the UFC, that has created a different dynamic. And because a lot of the brick and mortar casinos are really promoting also the online gaming and gaming in general, it's created a younger demographic. So I think that the casinos have done a real good job transitioning into more of a destination, even in local markets. Better restaurants, better entertainment, a lot more things to do, whether it's even the health spa and the different things that you can take advantage of. But in terms of gaming, because of that change in sort of the online, we're seeing a much younger audience that's there. So the concern, certainly on our part, and hopefully on the casino operators' part, is less than it was 3 or 4 years ago, because we have seen an infusion of a younger demographic coming in. Now, in our business, what that means is that you really need to be on top of the brands and you really need to be on top of the trends, because in social media, the lifespan of a certain SKU, a product, is very short, and the brands are very, very, are moving very quickly. So that means your program needs to really take into consideration who that audience is. Um, you know, I mean, you're obviously, of that younger. I don't know, are you a millennial? You're not a millennial. What are you now at this stage?
I don't know. I'm kind of on I'm 27, so I'm kind of like in the middle zone,
All
you
right,
know?
you're on the cusp of that.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you don't remember
sure.
that, loyalty programs used to come out at the start of the year and they didn't change all year long, or was done via catalog. It needs to be done. It needs to be, electronic. It needs to be delivered within social media that everybody embraces. And it needs to be repetitive, because our attention spans are shorter today than they ever were before, because we're constantly moving on to the next thing. We're constantly going on the phone. We're multitasking and all that. So casinos have an opportunity to reach that audience, to excite that audience, but they need to do it within the environment of the social media that they enjoy, and it really needs to be products that resonate with them.
Sure. And I was going to touch on this a little bit later, but I think there's a good segue in terms of the advent of online gaming. I think, especially when I think of a place like New Jersey, right, or like Atlantic City, where both verticals, both the retail and online gaming, are both very prevalent and kind of depending on who you ask, kind of fighting each other a little bit.
Yep.
But how does the in a market like that or others across the country with similar setups, like how does the ability for both platforms, like what kind of challenge, like, or opportunities and or challenges does that present for you guys in terms of kind of putting together promotions or kind of catering to a player who might like both verticals or might prefer one but dabbles in both? Like how does that kind of
Yeah.
change the calculus of these programs?
Yeah, well, great question. In terms of most of the online gaming platforms, they're still not really doing a real good job on player loyalty in terms of creating a program for them that really draws them in. I mean, they're enticing them with essentially it's free play, right? I mean, that's what it is. You get your bet, you're guaranteed this. If you do this, you do that. That doesn't have a stickiness to it because anybody can duplicate it and anybody can actually offer a better offer because it's just an easy thing to do. You need to really have a comprehensive plan that's a loyalty plan that in many cases does in fact reflect into what is being done in the casinos themselves. I mean, whether it's BetMGM or whether it's Fanatic Sportsbook, they're aligned with properties. So I think that you have to take a look at it from that standpoint. In terms of the usage, it is very different. And I'll tell you, like right now, I've got a lottery app. I live in New Jersey. I've got a lottery app that's in there. I very rarely played the lottery before the app was on my phone. I just didn't, it was inconvenient. It was inconvenient to go to the store. And if the lottery was at $800 million and there was going to be a huge line, I didn't want to wait on it. So I very rarely played. The app is on there now. And you get notifications that, oh, lottery's up to, $350 million. Well, it's worth $10, right? So there's a convenience and there's an acceleration of interaction with that, which could be negative, obviously, if you got to control your spending, but it keeps it top of mind. So I think that the online betting platforms keep that top of mind, gives them easy access to do it, but it's not duplicating what takes place in the property, the socialization part, the fun part of it, whether it's having a drink at the bar, or having a great meal in the restaurant or going to see a show as well. So they can coexist without cannibalizing one or the other. And I think it's really very, very healthy that it really is, again, creating different demographics to come in and use both platforms.
Definitely. And, we've already touched on a number of different factors related to the loyalty sector, but I'm curious now if we can kind of get into Rymax specifically. So what are you guys doing right now in terms of, meeting these demands and or crafting these programs? Kind of what is setting you guys apart right now in the overall landscape?
Well, the first thing that sets us apart, which has been our DNA since the very beginning, is that we do everything ourselves. We don't outsource customer service. We actually bring the product in. We ship the product. We do all those things. We have our buyers in house and all that. It makes a difference because the player experience doesn't just end when they receive something. It's all part of the process around that. If they're going to get it drop shipped, to be able to have tracking and be able to talk to somebody. If there's damage or defective, to be able to do that. So I think that's really important. We have some competition where they want to align themselves with an online retailer. The problem with that is that the pricing is fluctuating. It fluctuates, right? It's not steady, and a lot of times it's third parties that are actually selling those things. So our model, the price is the price. We're delivering it to you, which I think is really important. From a technology standpoint, we're upgrading our platform. It's going to be even more robust. Right now, I think it's a pretty good platform. It's going to be even more because really the tracking and sort of the geo tracking of who's on the site and what they're looking at, how much time they spend on the site, what other categories they look at is really critical marketing for casinos and really for all of our clients. So we're upgrading that. In terms of the brands, we pre-pandemic we used to bring on about 20 brands a year. And then post-pandemic, we're probably down to about 10. And the reason that we did that was because we really want to make sure the supply chain was there. You don't want to be offering something you really can't deliver. That's loosened up. So we're bringing in a lot more brands. We're doing a lot more categories. we try to think, it's an overused phrase, but we try to think out of the box in terms of what is really going to be desirable for the players or for any consumer. And, a lot of what's given out is actually regifted. So believe it or not, we have a huge business with Lego because going back to the different demographics. Well, if it's a boomer that's in there and they've got grandkids, or if it's somebody that's in their 40s and they have kids, to get something like that and then to be able to regift it, especially at Christmas time, is a huge thing. So we try to really look at a real broad spectrum of products. We're bringing more categories on board, upgrading our website, and I think we're just delivering just an overall better service. There's nothing more frustrating than if you get something that's delivered to your front door and it's either damaged or defective, or you just didn't receive it. And the fact that you can still talk to a live operator, because we actually have our customer services in-house and they're actual people that are sitting there, I think it's huge. I think it's huge. I mean, I'm a consumer like everybody else, and the frustration level sometimes when I try to get an answer to something is real high, So I think that's how we're looking at it. We continue to grow our business, and I think it's a good model.
Yeah, you can definitely relate. I think everyone can relate to the, having to shout representative at the phone over and over again until it just gives into your demands. I think we've all been there before. But,
Yeah.
one thing kind of touching on that as well is like, from what I understand, you guys have, gaming is just a part of what you do in terms of your overall business. Does that kind of, I guess versatility, or does that kind of broad range of services, does that help in terms of get kind of like more partnerships, more resources, kind of just more everything in terms of like you're not just focused on this one thing, you have all these other different things that you can draw from?
Yeah, again, a great question because I think that so we're pretty much in every vertical.
Sure.
We've got clients that are in the airline industry. We have clients that are manufacturing the planes. We have telecommunication companies. We've got a lot of pharmaceutical companies. We've got a lot of financial companies, along with and they're all top tier. They're all top, names that everyone would recognize. I think that gives us a distinct advantage in terms of what is redeeming because you're getting an eclectic group of employees geographically and from all demographics. And so to be able to get insight, whether you're working at Boeing, United Airlines, or AT&T, or, Daiichi Pharmaceutical, um, to be able to see what motivates people and what drives them, whether it's an employee program or whether it's a consumer program, is part of, I think, our expertise to be able to go back into other verticals and say, hey, here's actually what does work. Because look, in programs like this, and it's not unusual, but there's an awful lot of what we call mother-in-law research, right? A bunch of people sit down, they go, it'd be really great, as if we gave out chia pets, and you go like, oh, hold on a second now, let's take a look at that. Or I'll give you the greatest example. We had Swarovski had about 7 or 8 years ago the Mariah Carey ornament. Now, people are pretty much tired of Mariah Carey by Halloween, based on the number of times they played that song. But she really is associated with Christmas, and we thought it was going to be a grand slam, as did Swarovski, and it wasn't. But you get that feedback because they say, well, wait a second, was it not right in this sector or was it not right here? And so, you're able to analyze that and then build a better program. And by the way, Swarovski is a great partner of ours, and almost every product that they have does extremely well. So I don't want to, make them feel like we're pointing them out. But man, I thought the Mariah Carey ornament was going to be fantastic. And it wasn't, and so, yeah, I think that the fact that we're in so many other different verticals is really very important to the casino industry because it does give us better insight into what we think works based on real data.
I was gonna say, yeah, I would imagine like when you have so many different verticals that like you could kind of, steal and go back and forth and say, hey, like this worked at, I'm always interested in like previous, like I'm always interested in the idea of things that didn't work in the past but could work in the future. You know what I mean? So if you say
Yep.
like, oh, well, we tried this at 2 years ago, but it didn't really work, but it's working really well now, or hey, we've got this, we tried this one particular, we have this one particular thing that we're seeing in this particular vertical. Let's try and see if we can move it here. I think that kind of interplay is very interesting.
Yeah, well, first of all, I hope that after you finish your journalistic career, you wind up running a company because what you just said is exactly the way businesses should look at things. Just because something didn't work doesn't mean it doesn't work. It may not have worked during that time and period. It may not have been executed correctly. It may not have been communicated correctly. It doesn't mean that it doesn't work. Now, I mean, some ideas are just bad ideas and they're never going to work. Okay, I mean, let's be honest. But the reality is that yeah, it's always a learning experience, and I think that you have to always revisit things and say, well, what could we do differently? And just to circle back on Swarovski, their Christmas ornament is one of the best-selling things that they have every year. People collect them. And so, that model works. That SKU didn't work, but that model works. And so, yeah, it really is important to always revisit stuff. And I think it's important to show different uh, segments of the business, yeah, what worked and gee, maybe it'll work for your employees this way. So, or the consumer.
You know, for one reason, I don't know why, but for some reason, I just had a question pop into my head. It's a
Yeah.
short one, but sometimes I kind of chuckle to myself because of our magazine production schedule. Like I have to be like about a month to 6 weeks ahead. So like if I'm asking somebody, hey, I want to do this article in this issue, they're kind of like, well, that's kind of far away. But I would have to imagine I'm kind of chuckling to myself because I just imagine you like in a room like in like January thinking about like what the following year's winter collection will be. You know what I mean? I could see you just like planning like so far ahead. I mean, people uh get annoyed whenever like people put if they put the Halloween decorations out in August, but I would imagine you're probably doing that the previous August. So it's just kind
Yeah,
of
no, so what we do is we work very, very closely with the manufacturers in terms of the roadmap. And the roadmap is usually about 18 months out,
oh my gosh.
which will give you a sense of sort of what products are going to be discontinued, what's going to be phased in, things
Sure.
like in terms of how we look at things, we try to be at least 6 months ahead
Okay.
because we want to make sure that we have the right products and we want to make sure that we're delivering the right message. And in the fourth quarter, we do a tremendous amount of shopping sprees on property. We do all the MGM properties and we do the Hard Rock and Seneca and I can name a whole bunch of casinos that we do these shopping sprees for. Yeah, we start talking about that in usually like in around May. So yeah, we're thinking about the holidays, you know, 6, 7 months out, and in terms of how we're going to execute these things, which is not unlike what a retailer does. It's still the retailer mentality, is following those trends. Now, you do want to be nimble so that if something comes up that's different, you can capitalize on it. But look, as sure as we're sitting here, Christmas is going to come and go every year on December 25th, and Halloween's always going to be October 31st, and we can go on and on and on. And and then even in terms of entertainment, the Academy Awards are going to be in March, and so you can do something around that in terms of what's an entertainment thing. And so there are things like that you can really count on. And no, it's a great question. Yeah, we're always at least 6 months ahead.
Goodness. So this has been really good. I always love talking to you about this stuff. I'll get you out of here on this. As we look ahead, I mean, I always love to ask people in terms of whatever their particular business is of looking ahead and kind of forecasting or kind of gleaning trends, future trends. So I'll ask you, what do you see, or maybe it doesn't have to be a specific thing or a specific product, but kind of how do you see loyalty programs kind of evolving in the future and or changing, as time goes on?
Yeah. So in terms of, I'll break it into a couple different areas. In terms of products, connectivity is everything.
Sure.
So that really is a very, very important part of the business. In terms of other categories, um, fashion is always somewhat recession proof, and people really sort of gravitate towards that. And then fashion, again, like I said, is watches and it's handbags and it's even clothing and stuff. Um, I don't see TVs being as important as they used to be because everyone has pretty much upgraded to a smart TV. And quite frankly, going back again to the demographics, there are a lot of millennials, Gen Zs that don't even watch TV. They watch it on a device, and it's a streaming device. So that sort of has changed the dynamic. It's always good to have TVs in the mix, but the reality is where it was one of the biggest things that we're redeeming. It's not a very big, redemption item right now. So I think that, you're going to see a lot more of that in terms of connectivity, in terms of things that are lifestyle, make things easier in your life. In terms of the business, I sound like a broken record because I think I said it to you last year and the year before. We're extremely bullish on the casino business because I think that the casino operators get it right. They understand that it's not just about gaming, it's about an overall experience. It's about going in and feeling a little bit different, maybe acting a little bit different, and sort of having a little bit of a fantasy in terms of when you walk through those doors. And that's really important today. People want to have fun. People want to escape, even if it's for a half an hour or whatever, and sort of be part of a community because we're also very isolated. We're talking now about about work from home and the dynamic of that and is it right versus being in the office and all. And there are pros and cons across the board. But we're still social animals and you still want to have some social, interaction and connectivity. And so I think the casinos really offer that up. And then lastly, because there's been an explosion of casinos over the last 20 years, I think people understand how important it is to the infrastructure of the community. You'll still always have, and it's going on right now in New York because they want to put one in on Long Island. They want to put, I think it's either a Hard Rock or it's a Sands Casino. Um, and you're getting all the pushback. Oh, it's going to bring in this element. It's going to do this. It's going to hurt families. No, it creates jobs. It creates an infrastructure. It creates more housing. You need more restaurants. You need more of everything. So I think we've gotten past that, which means that there's going to be more, which is good. I think competition is good. I think regional markets are good. And so I think those are the trends that we continue to see, and we're happy to see them.
Definitely. And like I said, it's a science for sure, and it goes beyond, on the surface, it's obviously it's casinos and products and programs, but really at the heart of it, it's just basic, it's pure, almost animalistic, like motivation, desire. It cuts to the heart of the human condition, right? If I want to get really philosophical about it.
No, no, I love that you get philosophical about it because I did an interview yesterday and someone was talking about just in general, rewards programs. And that's a basic human desire to be recognized and rewarded. If you can remember how proud you were when you got a good grade and your mother put it on the refrigerator, or if you got, a ribbon in the social science class or whatever it was, that's a big deal. People still want that. And it doesn't matter, by the way, how old you are or how rich you are or, where you stand in the community. Everybody wants to be recognized. They want to be rewarded and they want to be part of a community. And that's a basic human need. And what we deliver through the casinos, I think is critically important for people to fulfill that need and to feel part of something. So yeah, we love it. We love the business and we love, what we do with our clients.
Certainly. Well, like I said, Paul, this has been great. As always, I always love having you on and talking to you at this time of year.
Thanks.
For anybody interested, before you go, anyone who wants to learn more about Rymax, about what you guys do, kind of where can they find you? What would you tell the people out there?
Yeah, well, you can go to rymaxinc.com and obviously go to the website. If anybody wants to talk to me direct, you can go to email me at pgordon, Gordon, at rymaxinc.com. And I read the emails, I answer the emails. So I'd be more than happy to talk to anybody.
I can confirm that part. So thanks again, Paul. And like I said, this has always been great. It's always great talking to you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us for the GGB Gaming Supplier Showcase, our exclusive look at the best products and services produced by vendors for the gaming, iGaming, and sports betting industries. For more information about the GGB Supplier Showcase, contact Terry Brady at tbrady@ggbmagazine.com.